Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Enough to Keep Going podcast, the most electrifying podcast on the internet today. I am your host, Osiris Prime, and tonight I have with me two gentlemen that don't need introductions, but I'm going to do it anyways, just in case you're new here. First, we have Mr. Agascles Stamos. Agascles, how's it going? How was your weekend?
Woo, 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 woo. It's good. It's good. So, wife's birthday was this weekend, so we got that all taken care of. I kind of wrapped up rearranging the room. I don't know if I can maneuver so that everybody can see it. My gaming chair actually came in, so I got that all assembled.
Very bright.
Nice and comfy. I like bright colors.
That's good.
My cars have been yellow and orange, things like that. So, yeah. Actually, there's actually a good reason for it. So these chairs normally go for like $244, $300, and Amazon ran a sale last week, and this thing was marked down to like $60. So, but it was specifically the green chair, the blue one, and the red one. I think were high. They were still like $150, and I was like, yeah, forget that. I'll pay $60.
Nice.
I don't mind rocking the
So
green.
what makes it a $200? What makes it a $200 gaming chair? What does it add besides lumbar support?
I don't know. So, look, I'm not going to try and qualify the dollar per dollar cost on a sliding scale. I will say, and I was dubious about it being anything more than like a fashion piece. But what I will say is, so I have been having some problems with what is probably some degree of carpal tunnel syndrome with my left hand, and I will say this chair raises up like just only about like a quarter-inch higher than any other office chair that I have, and so at least for my setup, getting up that extra quarter inch so I have a better ergos from the elbow reach to my keyboards is good. The seat is a little wider than most of my office chairs. And for me, it's actually more firm, which is better than it being really super cushiony. So for when I'm standing up gaming, particularly if it's a Japanese RPG or something that's putting me to sleep. So yeah, and it's mesh and that breathes a little better, so it stays a little cooler, like on the armrests and on the seat padding. So
Very nice.
Nice. So I stepped on my introduction. Sorry, Prime.
That's all right.
But I was so curious about the chair. So
And yeah, obviously the other guy over there is Mr. DBQ Hams, a very tired DBQ Hams. I see.
yes. So and unlike Agascles, I was not rearranging a room. I was napping and fighting off a cold for most of this past weekend. So very fun stuff. But I'm here and excited to talk about some games with you, gentlemen.
Yes. So this is our GX show, our gaming experience show. This is episode number 36, by the way. So we'll go over through our playlists here. We'll go a little deeper into what we've been playing instead of the quick blurbs that we do on our topic show. But first, we're going to go to Mr. DBQ Hams. He's going to report out on his gaming experience from a couple weeks ago. So he had 3 games that he chose for us to pick for him. No Man's Sky, The Division, and Elder Scrolls Online. And we picked No Man's Sky. And it sounds, well, at least at the beginning, maybe it wasn't such a great experience. We'll see what happens here what happened through his whole last 2 weeks. So, DB, how did it turn out for you?
Okay, so No Man's Sky, I spent 12 and a half hours on the game clock, 2 different game saves. My first one was less than 30 minutes, and I died because I didn't quite understand what I was doing. But my next one was over 12 hours. So, and I'm tired because last night I was up until 1 o'clock playing it. And I'm trying to process all of this because it started off in a whole different direction. And so I kind of summed up my experience, and bear with me here, and feel free to jump in at any point in time. But I think there's some No Man's Sky is an interesting game. So I never really had played it, right? I'd followed kind of the hype and the bust and the additional updates that came out. That they put some patches out after the spring of 17. that added some base building. They added some quest lines. They added more stuff in on their 1 year anniversary last year. And so I've had this game sitting in my PlayStation library in a disc form since December of 16, but I've never really played it. And so really, as I thought about my experience, it kind of boils down to isolation, wonder, survival and sustenance, confidence, and at the same time, this constant state of being the other. And so bear with me here. But so the isolation aspect, right? This is a relatively easy one. That you're alone on most worlds. You start without any memory. You're a traveler. That I end up running from mineral deposit to mineral deposit. Dropping him in my ship, managing my inventory, trying to figure out what I was doing, nursing my life support all along the way. That you have not only life support, but you also have, if the temperature is too hot or too cold or too radioactive or too poisonous, there's all kinds of other factors that can kill you. So just staying alive on my own was, and this wasn't even survival mode. This was normal mode. So there is a hardcore survival mode, which is almost like a roguelike where it's one run and you're done. But my whole experience, I never died. And I played the game that way on purpose as kind of this experience. So the fact that sometimes I would bump into other aliens, whether opening up a hut and, a shelter and finding them, or finding a trade post out in space, came as a surprise. And then it came even more surprise when they started shooting at me in space. But they were welcoming in other places. So I found myself looking for something to connect with, something to hang on to. And the updated story quest tried to do this. So there's an Atlas quest, which came with the game originally. This is kind of the 2001 obelisk-like looking things that are on the cover, that have you kind of jumping through, moving from system to system, building up resources to be able to jump. And ideally, it kind of steps you through some of the systems in the game. Then this past fall, they added an Artemis quest line and a couple other quest lines where you can choose. And this Artemis quest line really is what got its hooks into me, because here you get a transmission from another traveler, from somebody stranded somewhere, and they're looking for help, and you're the person who has heard their transmission. So I've been playing for hours on this sense of isolation, and finally there's this other person who's connected with me and that I have the ability to connect with. So that gave me the kind of drive to keep going.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah, please do.
So that other person, that's just an AI person, right?
It's totally a fictional NPC. Yep, not a real person. None of this. As I came to learn eventually, the co-op aspects of this are pretty limited still. That there are people coexist in the universe. Like if somebody crashed and died, on the subreddit, they may post their coordinates of their ship for others to go find and salvage. But the lack of any type of meaningful co-op is not really there in the sense of maybe what they promised way back when.
It's kind of cool.
So it is actually, it's kind of cool, but again, I know this because I looked at a subreddit, right? That the UI interfaces, that there's a ton of systems and crafting that the game lays out for you, but it doesn't really tell you a lot on how to do it. And so a lot of the early part of the game really was kind of like UI management and inventory negotiating and trying to, figure out how things crafted together and what was this mineral I needed and what button could I scan in order to find that. And so it really, once that all started to click together, there is this really kind of cool sense of wonder that it does create, right? That I'm out exploring planets, I'm discovering new life forms, I am, jumping from system to system, that there are planets with all kinds of different topography, and sometimes even just the visual aspect of being out in space and seeing almost like the Star Trek aspect, right? The moon crests over the edge of the horizon of the planet, and then you see the sun, and there's some really cool visual pieces there. But at the same time, because what hooked me in this game was trying to find this Artemis quest line, I didn't stay on one planet for too long. I was kind of constantly trying to move from planet to planet, get enough resources to do that. And so I could have stayed, I could have played it like a Minecraft, right? And just mined minerals with my mining gun, traded them, sold them at the trading post out in orbit, come back down, just rinse and repeat. But really, I never stayed too long on a planet. And in part because for the longest time, at least for the first 4 hours, I felt like I was racing against my life support, that I didn't really, I didn't quite get how to recharge my life support or didn't know which minerals did it. And so as I was mining, I was struggling to stay alive, that I did mine some rare minerals when I found them. There was, and it creates these kind of really cool kind of story vignettes, right? That emergent gameplay. That was a comment that came out when this first came, that I found a couple gold deposits on 2 different radioactive planets. And so I'm mining them for all I'm worth to try to build up credits. And a big radioactive storm brews up out of nowhere, and I have like 2 seconds of warning. So I'm dashing back to my ship, that as my life support and hazmat suit, everything is failing, and it's at a slivers of support, and I get back to my ship just in time. And so at that moment, for a game that, as I said, I spent some time watching Netflix and playing the game at the same time, it has a really slow pace. But then there's moments where after I got on my ship, my gut released, right? I had this kind of I needed your chair, Glassicles. I was on the edge of my seat trying to get there before I died, because I was playing with this sense of tension. But at the same time, there were other times when I didn't really understand what minerals, or I knew what minerals I needed to refill my ship, but I couldn't find them. And so there came a point, probably 5 hours in, where I was at the edge of my life support. I had used my last boost to get up and in the atmosphere and trying to scan the planet to find the right minerals I needed. And I didn't have enough. If I landed, I didn't have enough to get back up into orbit to make a jump, or even to get to a trading post to buy stuff. And so it really became that planet I landed on. I was low on life support, and I needed some platinum. So I needed this one element. And I eventually ended up calling it Platinum Saver Planet, because as I was at the very end of my life support, I found some platinum up over the last ridge in this ravine that I was looking in. And so sometimes the scanner finds it, but it only has a certain distance, right? And so you can upgrade and things. So there was that piece of kind of survival aspects. So at one point, I mentioned on the chat that I wasn't really sure if I was liking this game, and this was kind of this turning point for me, that it felt like work. It felt like surviving to get to the next piece, and so. And part of that, I will admit, is unique to me. That there were definitely times in my life when I've lived paycheck to paycheck. Where one auto failure or car problem or kid health problem meant a financial trouble. And so this kind of living mineral deposit to mineral deposit definitely brought up some of those emotions. Which is unique within my own experience, but maybe not my own experience, but others as well. But eventually, as I looked on YouTube and got a better understanding, I had more confidence. And then hours 6 to 10 really, really took off for me. That I was mining and selling. I jumped through dozens of systems, met 40 different aliens, started learning language, got into a fight in my fighter craft, and defended a raider, killed a raider, got a nice trophy for that. So I started to kind of grok the system of everything that it was doing. Right, I got the loop of mining gold and selling it, and finding out what minerals are rare in what system, and jumping and identifying planets and mapping and having a better sense of all that. And then I hit a wall. And so this is the unique part of this experience, where I think I'm probably done with it, but man, I had an amazing experience. So the wall I hit was in this Artemis quest line of trying to find this person. I had another transition from him and triangulated things and figured out how to build. But in order to get the transmission, I needed to talk with one of the alien races, because they would tell me where it was. And this alien race I had built up a couple rep levels with and learned some language, but I wasn't high enough. Or artificially I learned as I kind of read about this is that wherever you are on the rep level, you need to get X number of spots, 3 spots higher. And so I needed to do things. And so this is where that kind of sense of other really came back and hit me. So, that I was totally into this game and kind of starting to feel like, oh, I could definitely keep playing this. But I hit this kind of honest communication barrier where I only knew words that I had learned. And so the rest of it was all garbled stuff. And so I had this kind of realization that even no matter how confident I was in my own ability to stay alive and find a new ship and mine minerals and all the other pieces, I couldn't go any further until I was valuable in this other race's eyes, right? That he wouldn't even answer me because I wasn't worthwhile. And so the one person I was identifying with and trying to track down, I couldn't get because I was the other, right? That I was this traveler and this other race wasn't there to help me. So as I thought about this today and last night, the social and racial implications of that are certainly not lost on me as a white male, that there are ways to read into that. But it also meant that it totally shifted the way I was seeing and feeling this game. So I quested out trying to increase my rep. And in the process, I got a tip that I could find a wormhole to closer to the center of the universe. So this was my escape from this race that didn't want anything to do with me. So that became my new goal in hour 11. And I made a few more jumps, built up my, crafted the right resources, hit the black hole, and came through a long kind of cool 2001 light show aspect and came out on the other side to this big bustling world and airspace with all kinds of freighter ships. And on the first planet that I scanned, I came up with there's a base available, and I landed there, and it offers to make my home base and my dwelling. And so this is a whole nother one of the things that was added to the game is that idea of base building, right? So then suddenly there's all these other mods and things that I can build to the base. But for me, who had just spent the last 12 hours trying to stay alive, jumping through space, suddenly the idea of home had this kind of emotional resonance. And so I went from being this wandering traveler to settling down, right? I saved my game, I shut it down, and emotionally, that's where my guy landed, that I was done, right? So there's this whole kind of interesting arc that it took me on. And, I say this after the fact that it's been a year and a half of this game. And so all these things, the majority of these things have been added to the game, right? So there's a lot there. If any of that sounded interesting, there's all kinds of way that this game has a potential to hook you. And I would also assume that if I ran it again and started a new character, I could have a totally different experience depending on how and where I landed. So, I guess it was a whole lot more than I anticipated. And I was expecting this kind of Minecraft in space or just this space exploration. And I found something, that for a 12-hour game was a really worthwhile experience.
Yeah, it sounds a little Sid Meier's Pirates-like, if that makes sense.
Yes, and maybe this is where I've kind of had that emotional connections that, I logged a ton of hours into Pirates as well.
Yeah, and that's the only thing I was to say. It sounds a little Sid Meier's Pirates-like. However, in Sid Meier's Pirates, it's a little work, but it's definitely it feels like Pirates was more fun and less tedious or rigorous. Yeah, and then as far as you like getting the racial enlightenment, I feel like as you were talking through it, I was like, yeah, man, but you could have just gone to see Black Panther and you'd have been out in like 2 hours, right? So it's just, oh man, it sounds a lot like an RPG.
Yeah, there was but again, maybe this is where that idea, and we've talked about this, right? Like how much of this is I created my own headcanon around this, and so that's where it was meaningful, versus, oh, I just got irritated at this NPC who wouldn't let me do this until I hit rep level 5, right? I mean, I treated it like a world rather than a game. And, and maybe that would have been different if I would have kept dying and I would have had to experience it that way. But I definitely went at it in a way that kind of was a unique experience.
Yeah, so I've mentioned this thing in the past. We've talked about this notion, this concept of the this isn't a riff on our name, but the E2TO, the E2 GT ratio, the entertainment to game time ratio. So do you feel like you completed this game on the upside of that equation or the downside, or do you feel like you broke even?
That's I think like I wouldn't have had the emotional kind of deep sigh from finding a base if I hadn't struggled in the way that I did, right? Like if on the second planet I could build a base and start farming and doing all the craft aspect of this, it would have had a totally different emotional resonance in terms of a game. It just would have been another mechanic, and it would have been a system that I chose to engage with or not, right? And I probably at that stage would have bounced off it and gone off to explore planets because that seemed exciting to me. So I mean, I feel like I definitely got my money's worth out of this game. I also feel like, and I've said this on previous podcasts, that I think that if this game would have launched at a $20 or $30 price point and was this kind of indie open world, it would not have had the blowback that it experienced, right? I mean, Subnautica is getting praised for this kind of underwater exploration and survival aspect that, if this wasn't touted as a big Sony release in a $60 game, I think that the tenor of this game and the expectations would have been managed in a way that would have allowed people to enjoy more out of it.
So it would have benefited if they would have maybe waited a little bit, like a year, maybe even like 6 to 9 months.
Oh yeah, I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, after visiting Reddit enough on the subthread of No Man's Sky, there are plenty of people who have just cataloged every planet and every ship, and they've got into that exploration mining kind of inventory aspect, but all the quest stuff that kind of really hooked me wasn't even there for the first 9 months of the game. And so, I think that if I would have tried it back then, I would have bounced off it within an hour, right? I think that it really was. And in fact, I didn't even get to that quest stuff until a couple hours in. And so if it wasn't for the fact that I was going to report this on a podcast, I know that during hour 2 and 3, I thought, oh, how much do I need to be able to talk about this on the show? And I have a long form essay that I could write about the emotional resonance that it created for me. So at some point, so I think it did. I ended on a high note because I got over that kind of initial hurdle.
All right.
So for people listening, I guess I would say that if any of that was interesting or sounded like, oh man, there's something there, or even the fact that my emotion in my voice, when No Man's Sky comes up on a Steam sale during a summer sale or something else, and it is $20, check it out, because now there's enough game there to actually make it feel like it's a game rather than, a crafting exercise.
Okay, so yeah, I have a few questions now. I'm going to dive a little bit into more maybe details of the game itself.
Yeah, please do.
I know we're almost half hour in, but you know what? I'm gonna do it anyways. So you said you can't. So there is going to be at some point some base building. So you said there near the end of your description, it looked like.
Yes. So the base I landed on, now I have blueprints of all different types of things to build, both structures and farmland, and looking at part of the way you make the most money is by getting seeds and destroying enough plants to get the seeds to then go back and create a farm that then harvests them that you can sell.
Oh, okay. Do you know? Now, did you do any of that? You didn't do any of that, right? You stopped right before you can start.
Yeah, I stopped before that. Yep. Sorry.
No, I was just wondering. And as far as like graphically, this is kind of, I don't want to say cartoony, but more stylized, I guess you want to call it.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of pastel-y colors. It's certainly more stylized, and in some ways that that works. That there's not a giant like Teddy Ruxpin bear that was stomping around on a planet that I found at one point in time. You know, it was very kind of you know, watercolory, and I think if it would tried to be a more realistic, the kind of suspension of disbelief in terms of being on an alien world would have been harder. Also, it would have been more graphically intensive, which would have churned systems like crazy. And so in some ways, again, I was running this on a PS4. It does have some, you know, PS4 Pro aspects to it, and I was running it both before the super sampling and after the super sampling, and it's a pretty looking game. I mean, it has a very distinct art style, and it's effective.
And then you had mentioned like when you were scanning, you had to go up into the atmosphere or into the space to scan stuff. There's no like ground scanning as far as you know or anything like that?
So there is a ground scanning, and that's where you find the minerals, right? So if you're up in space, you can scan the planet and it'll tell you what minerals are abundant, but it won't tell you the locations. So it's only until you get on planet, or I'm thinking there are additional levels of upgrades in your scanner. And so the kind of radius of your scanner will continue to increase. So yes, so really I spent a lot of time walking on a planet trying to get to mineral deposits.
All right, cool. And then two more things real quick.
Yeah.
So when you're traveling, you know, between space and the planet, is there a transition, or do you kind of are you doing it real time?
You're doing it real time, right? You have to have enough. This is where I ran into problems, that you needed to have enough energy in both your thrusters and your boosters to be able to get off the ground, but then also to get up into orbit. And so it's a lot of resource management in order to be able to do that. But it also keeps it really effective because you are transitioning your boosters, or you're getting up into orbit to make a jump over to the other side of the planet rather than skimming along the surface. Yeah, so it's effective.
Cool. Yeah, it sounds
now, are you? I'm sorry. No, go ahead, Brad.
Oh, I was just going to say, no, it sounds like, I mean, for all intents and purposes, a game that I would really enjoy, just from the different aspects of it. So.
Yeah, I think if you found yourself that the Minecraft and the exploration aspect to it, there's a lot there to hook you, if that's what you're going in looking for. What were you going to say, Glass Goose?
Well, first I go back to Prime and I throw the challenge flag because because there are stylistic elements of this that appeal to me also. However, but it's that time thing, right? Like I'm kind of starting to settle down and center on this acknowledgement that on a good week I might get in 10 hours of gameplay, right? I'm not, I guess. Probably my question for you is, but would you dedicate the time that was needed to extract that value out of this game, in 1 week? And if it did take your whole game time for a given week, how often do you think you would actually get back to it?
Well, I mean, if it's anything like, say, like Minecraft, or even like Lego Worlds, where I mean, obviously those games too, and even Minecraft to like really like the nth degree, because you can really do anything you want in that game, as long as it hooks me in some way. It doesn't matter what it is, the graphics or gameplay or exploring stuff. If it hooked me, I would jump into it. I would keep going and going and going until, and that's kind of how my gameplay is. I'll just stick onto something until I find the next thing, or if I know like another big game's coming, I'll try to get as much much enjoyment out of the game as I can, before that next game hits. And I don't really buy too many games. Well, I shouldn't say that. Before the Switch, I hadn't really bought too many games, in between when I was just playing the Xbox. Now it's a little different, but I think I'm still more or less kind of the same way. I've been playing PUBG now for a while, and even Minecraft and Rocket League on the Switch pretty much exclusively. So I kind of rotate in those games, in my PlayStation playthroughs. Excuse me. So I don't think it would be that big of a deal to throw something like this in there. I'd probably, once again, I would just drop like Minecraft probably, because I can always go back to that and pick it up, which I've been doing now for the last few years. So I'd have to just drop a game and come back to it later.
So I'll say that that's not the type of gameplay. I've never been able to really get into Minecraft other than, playing with my kids for the sake of playing with my kids. But I found I struggled to get myself to come back to this game. But once I was there, I found it really hard to put down. Like, there was something in that loop of, I'm so close to getting this next mineral to be able to make a warp drive to then be able to get to this next system, that there was just enough to kind of keep me stringing me along. But if I put it down, I didn't feel the tug to really come back to it.
So you almost I don't know how to say this. You gamified it in your way, in your own way, that you had a goal and you wanted to do it and you kept going and going, you just, and then that led you to other things, like you was talking about, the quests, and then eventually, the, go into the center of the universe and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's cool. I mean, probably you would have done that though, if you didn't, like I said, if you didn't have to do it for this podcast.
No, right. I don't think I ever would have got there if I wasn't doing it for this show.
Right.
And that, I think we've had a topic on that at some point in time, like, right, when do you bounce off a game, and when do you power through it and realize, like, oh yeah, there is something here. And usually I'm the kind of guy that will bounce off it because I've got plenty of other stuff to play. And for once I kind of powered through that hump and really found something worthwhile. So I'm glad you guys picked it. Thanks.
Nice. I guess there's anything else on No Man's Sky?
I just wanted to know if DBQ ever ran into God, and if he did he ask him to bring him a spaceship? little Star Trek V humor there.
Yep. No, but I did record the humpback whales just in the hope of being able to communicate with these frog-like aliens.
George and Gracie.
There it is, folks. There's the nerd moment. All right. So actually, there's one more thing I just wanted to mention real quick. I remember, I guess, because you had brought this up. It was a podcast that you had been listening to about the archaeology aspect of gaming. And I remember they had mentioned this game, and it sounds like, I mean, you really could, jump into these worlds and dig around and search them and do everything like an actual archaeologist, more or less, kind of sort of would in in real life. So I think that's kind of cool that there actually is people out there doing that. So it's just very interesting.
Yeah, and I'm agreeing with you. I'm not trying to make light of it. And there are those games out there, right? There are, even without necessarily the archaeology piece of it, there are all the community-based games that have been cropping up over the last year. Overwatch and League of Legends and all this stuff. And there are these singular experiences too, like DB had, and Gray is off, playing Elite Dangerous, right? But I know for me personally, and I'm glad to hear you go through it. Like, I can't bring myself around, and maybe it is a fact that it probably is a fact that I suffer from an extreme degree of FOMO. But yeah, my thing is, like, I can't. I couldn't settle my FOMO anxiety down sufficiently to put that much time into a single game. Knowing that other games are passing me by. Now granted, the negative side of that is I never deep dive into something like that and own something like that and have something like that define my experience over a lengthy period of time, which there are lots of gamers who do, and I think they definitely benefit from that, being singularly immersed in that type of world. That's just not the kind of gamer that I am, unfortunately.
I've learned to shed that now, because there's all kinds of games that I missed. I don't even care anymore. So I'll just pick a game and I'll just drill into it. So whatever. But you know what? Let's go on to the playlist here. And I guess, please, I'll keep it going with you. Why don't you let us know, or tell us what you've been playing? It looks like only one game here.
Yeah, so like I said, I rearranged the studio last week. Had a couple of new things that came in that I had to mess with and assemble or configure. So I didn't get a lot of gaming done. Also, we're kicking off our Jessica Jones Season 2 podcast this week, so I had a lot of entertainment homework that I had to do. I actually, I knew I hadn't finished Jessica Jones Season 1, but I actually had like 4 episodes of that I had to binge. So I've watched 7 hours of Jessica Jones in the last, between the weekend and coming back around into this week, and that would have been my gaming time. So, so I only wound up playing a little bit of Left 4 Dead. I actually bought Into the Breach, which is a turn-based strategy game from the creators of FTL, which is a cult classic and beloved game on Steam. And this is to a certain extent of similar ilk, but the night I started my gaming arc, it was late. I had been moving furniture around all day. I was like, I want to play this game. I feel like I owe it to it, but I just can't right now. So I went after a first-person shooter, and it turns out that that was Left 4 Dead. It did give me the chance to hook up some neat peripherals. So I've been doing some game captures with it. So I've been using the AGP Tech VG0020, which I can't physically bring over here because it's wired into the PC right now. But it's a little standalone black box game capture device that records everything and automatically encodes it to MP4 in real time. So, and then it records to an external storage device. So I use like an 8 gigabyte thumb drive with it. So, so when I record, I just pull the thumb drive off, go and take it to my video editing PC, and then put it all together from there. So that has worked out pretty well. And of course, as always, like I say it every time this game comes up, since Left 4 Dead doesn't really do game saves of the single-player campaign, which is fairly large. There's like 5 or 6 like mini campaigns, each with 5 or 6 levels themselves. So every time I pick this game up, I can't remember where I left off, so I always wind up starting back at the beginning. Historically, what I've done is I've kept a little Microsoft Note text file in my gaming shortcut folder on my desktop, and that's supposed to be where I leave a note on like the last level that I played. But what has consistently happened over the years is, I will go tear that PC down to rebuild it or do an upgrade, or something will happen, and I'll uninstall every single game on the system and then start over. And I always wind up losing that little note. So hopefully I will keep it this time and remember where I am and play through more of the single-player campaign than I have before. But yeah, so I've just been doing that. I also broke out my Razer Tartarus Chroma, my little gaming keypad to use to play with it, as well as my Zalman FG1000 gun mouse. So I've got more hardware here that I need to review. As I mentioned, I did an out-of-the-box episode with the Alla Excalibur, which is a larger style gamepad. And I probably should have broken it out to use to play this game to chew through some of the review experience, but I just wanted to go with something that I had used before. So yeah, it was pretty fun. Very timely. As I also, sorry, I'm just very timely. As I also, one of the other binge things that I did was I had to get caught up on The Walking Dead. I still need to get fully caught up, but I just binge watched the latter quarter of season 7 of The Walking Dead, and then turned around and played Left 4 Dead. So that was also very timely. But I'm sorry. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Sorry. Yeah. No, I was just going to say. So you just played single player. You didn't play any multiplayer with anybody?
Yeah, I've never really gotten into multiplayer. That I just play the single player campaign with the AI. I just needed some dumb mechanical fun, and I wanted something even lighter weight than Destiny or Destiny 2. And I also wanted to get some of my gaming PC peripherals broken out and play with those and get some game captures done. So this was a good fit.
Nice. DB, I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
No. I mean, I was curious about the online piece, if there was still an active community there, but it's still just a fun game and the mechanics hold up. So.
Right. Yeah. And for some reason, this is another one of these weird things. Like, for some reason, I don't understand it. Like, gameplay videos of that game are a thing that people watch on my YouTube channel. in comparison to other, at greater frequency than in comparison to other content. I don't know why. So
interesting.
Fine.
Just keep throwing it up there.
Yeah.
All right.
So, Prime, you have also been playing a first-person shooter, a little more modern, arguable as to whether or not it is equally polished at this stage of this game's evolution.
Yeah, maybe not so much, but it's getting better. It's getting better out there. I've been playing PUBG, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, excuse me, on the Xbox One. And actually, I was just playing right before I got on the podcast here, as you can see on my sign here. I actually won a game finally. It's been a couple weeks, so that was nice. And in a squad, so a squad of 4, but that was cool. Yeah, but I'm still chugging along in this game. Once again, there's only one map that they've released so far. There's the second map on the PC, but just the one on the Xbox. And I think they're going to release the second one in spring sometimes on the Xbox. So it's to be a little, get a little varied gameplay in there, but I'm still enjoying it. They did add a first-person only mode that you can play through on both. I know on duo and on solo, probably on squad too, I would think, but I think I've only tried that once. So I usually kind of do the third person, which you can kind of jump in between third and first person anyways. So I don't know why they did it like that, but I guess people wanted just a first person mode. So I've been doing that. And I've actually, the last couple of weeks I've been streaming. So that's been good. I've been throwing it up on my YouTube channel there. And I just did one last weekend, and then I actually did one for about a half hour, 45 minutes, just a little bit ago too. So
have you been streaming straight to YouTube?
No, I've been doing it to Mixer and then just downloading it and copying over or uploading it to YouTube. But yeah, I don't think you can do it on the Xbox. Not that I've been able to tell or find out.
Yeah, I guess I was more thinking, were you streaming to Twitch and then exporting it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was just doing that to Mixer.
Does Xbox still allow you to stream straight to Twitch, or have they nixed all that capability and made it so you can only go to Mixer?
To be honest with you, I don't know. I haven't even tried since Mixer started coming out, or since Mixer came out, and I've been using that more often.
I think they still have a Twitch app.
Yes, they still have a Twitch app, and I think you can still stream to it.
Yeah, whereas Mixer is just the organic native
default
onboard streaming capability. I mean, it's you go into settings. I don't think, if I remember correctly, you don't open up a Mixer app. It's
integrated
it's part
in there.
Of Xbox.
Yeah. So the first few months I didn't use it just because I had problems with Mixer, so I was still using Twitch. But then once I made the switch, I haven't tried jumping back into Twitch. So I don't know, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. And I think that's it for PUBG.
So speaking of making the switch, have you been playing your Switch, or have you been playing other games on your Xbox again?
I have actually. I've been actually playing Rocket League on both Switch and Xbox One. Just a little bit on Xbox One, because I had when I got my the Xbox One X, I just kind of threw my original Xbox down in the basement. I hadn't set it up or anything, so then I actually finally set it up. I think it got actually a couple weeks ago, and then this past weekend I just turned it on just to do updates and stuff, and I was like, hey, I'll play a couple of games and see how it is. And it was running fine. I didn't have any problems. So yeah, I've been playing Rocket League on that too.
So just use case wise, what's the I don't want to say the reason, but like how do you use the other Xbox differently? Like I know when I did that with the PlayStation 3, which was after my kids were born. I put the PlayStation 3 in the basement because they weren't there, right? So it was a place where I could play games that I didn't want them to see during the day, right? If I didn't have that shift to watch them. So right. Are you kind of using the basement Xbox One in the same way, or is it just a backup Xbox?
Kind of a backup, but then kind of the opposite. So I want my kid to play down there in that one if he's going to play, like especially if his friends come over. So I'll just throw him down there. I don't want him touching the X right now, at least. So so there's that. And then I just never I think I mentioned this. I never traded in just because I wasn't going to get a whole lot for it. So I was just like, I'll just keep it, throw it downstairs for my son. He can play with it. So, but there's one weird thing that I didn't realize now. So I think, because I'm doing the game share, and I think I have that one as the home, the original Xbox, and then the Xbox One X. I have to log into it each time. But I didn't realize that when you're arranging your pins, it actually syncs to both Xboxes. And I thought it would only do it on the one console, but I guess it's profile specific, so it doesn't follow the console; it follows the profile. So just a little tip there, because I was just gonna throw all like the Legos and Minecraft and all that on that one, and then keep all my stuff, but that's not the case. So I gotta deal with that. But that's all right. That's fine. I just don't put it on the pins. Some of the stuff I play, and I just have to go into the games and do it that way. So no big deal. So DB, it looks like you played a demo on the Switch.
I did, yes. I played the Kirby Friend Star, or what's it? Star Allies. There we go. Kirby Star Allies. Yes, I played the demo. It's a Kirby game. It plays like Adventure in Dreamland. It plays like Return to Dreamland. It plays like a Kirby game, but it's sure pretty. It looks great. I mean, it's almost got this kind of. It's not quite Kirby Epic Yarn. It's not quite Yoshi's Woolly World, but the characters have this almost kind of textile and texture to them that adds a whole other sense of depth. And it's, I suppose because the game isn't super mechanically intensive, that they can devote a lot of resources to squeezing out, even in handheld mode on the Switch. So yes, so I played that. And also played a little bit of the new Battlefield 1 DLC, which is a couple of maps, but also an air assault mode. So kind of just a fighter planes battle, all air combat. Zeppelins and bombers and fighters, and a lot of fun, actually. I'm still kind of learning the mechanics because I didn't play a whole lot of fighters in Conquest in Battlefield 1, but if it was around when it first launched, I know I would have sunk a lot of time into it. I spent a whole lot of time playing Hotwire mode in Battlefield Hardline in terms of driving around, and so it works really well, and it's very reminiscent of kind of the Starfighter Assault mode in Battlefield or Battlefront 2.
Well, that's what I thought of DB, and I want to ask you while we're on the topic. Like, why are developers not getting around to that until, like, it seems to me to be a no-brainer that if you have a game like that and it has air vehicles, and we know it has air vehicles, lots of people would want to play that in dogfight mode. And Battlefront has launched without it to be added later, and the same thing with
Battlefront 2 has it. So Battlefront 2 this fall had it. It had an air assault
from launch.
From launch, yep. It was one of the three modes, right? I mean, you had a multiplayer, you had the campaign, and you had the air assault. So it was there, and it was the most polished. Criterion did it, right? Former Criterion devs, right. They were the ones who were doing the air assault mode, or the space assault, whatever it's called. Yeah. But yeah, in terms of this, I mean, it's a year and a half after Battlefield 1 launched, and the mechanics of the planes were there from the beta because they were in the big maps. I mean, right? You could spawn into them. They were there. And so it really would have been nice if this was I don't know, maybe, just they were working on trying to stabilize it, but I'd be curious to know what type of metrics they get in terms of player counts. But it's also at this stage, maybe people pick it up. Like this week, it's on PlayStation. The whole pass is like $14 for all the content, right? Maybe now's the time when it's cheap enough that people, end up picking it up and trying it. But it would have been nice if it was something baked in from the beginning.
Are these the same maps that are already in there, or did they throw some new ones in there, or did they expand the maps at all?
I mean, it's one map has clouds during daylight. One map has mountains at dusk, right? I mean, it's all in the air, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's not like you're flying in and out of, at least the maps that I've seen so far. I've only seen 2, and there were only 2 that I could vote on, right? You're not flying in between, the London skyline, right? I mean, it's pretty much high air battles.
Okay. I was just wondering, because I mean, even like when you were able to do in Conquest, the air battles, I mean, those maps are fairly large, but it still kind of seemed kind of small for air stuff. Like you couldn't go like too far out. You had to like turn around right away almost. Otherwise you'd hit, go outside the map, and if you didn't turn around, you'd die, you'd blow up. So I don't know if they expanded maybe the area or something. I
think the area is expanded, but you still have that kind of boundary where you get
Right.
the turnaround, leaving combat area. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then I had a quick question on Kirby. So I never played any of the previous Kirby games, and I was watching some videos on this one. So did you always have allies like you can in this one? Like you can have like a little 2 or 3 guys with you, I guess.
So in the Super Nintendo version, you could have like an ally. You could have one person, and sometimes that would be the computer that would just kind of tag along and shoot stuff, or you could also be a second player. But that's
Okay.
mainly been the time when there's been a second player. There hasn't been. It wasn't until the Wii version of Return to Dreamland where you could have 4 players do that. And Kirby Epic Yarn, I think, did that as well. So it wasn't until then when you had 4 players. But again, that was only if you had other physical people to play with in the room. This way, you have kind of 4. In some ways, it makes the game, you kind of just blow through enemies. It makes the combat relatively straightforward and easy because you have 4 people fighting. It is, it really is my first platformer. The game, it's a great, easy entry level one. Even on the hard stage that's in the demo, it's hard to tell if there's going to end up being a challenge there in terms of gameplay and nuance, or if it's just a matter of collecting enough, X number of something pieces to get the gold star at the end. So, I mean, it's pretty vanilla, pretty bland, but it's also, relatively safe for kids to jump in and try a fun platformer that's something different than Mario at this stage on the Switch.
Yeah. This is all just side scrolling, right? Okay.
Yes,
All right.
all side scrolling.
All right, cool. Yeah, maybe I'll pick it up one day on sale or something. Yeah, I've never been a big Kirby guy, so I don't know. We'll see what happens. All right, so I got one more game I'm just going to talk about real quick. A game that I actually came back to on the Xbox One is Fortnite. I hadn't played it since PUBG came out. I was playing that pretty much exclusively before then, and I was playing that on my original Xbox. So on the Xbox X, I don't know just because if it's the X or if it's been a while. I mean, the game's been up for a little bit. It's still beta, I guess technically, but it looks really good. It looks really nice on the Xbox One X. Really crisp colors and just really vibrant. And everything moves fine. I didn't really see any problems or glitches or anything, but like I said, it's still in beta. But I don't know why it was. I don't know when it's going to release. Actually, I thought it had released already, but when I jump into my game, it says it's still a closed beta, which is kind of weird because I think you can just download it now. But still takes a heck of a long time though to get into the actual game, which is I find kind of weird. So, but once you're in it, once you get past those first menus and stuff, it plays flawlessly. So yeah, I'm having fun with that again. I play maybe like a round or two before I jump into something else, either Rocket League or PUBG or whatever. So yeah, so I've been playing that. So that's cool. And then I was going to mention one other thing. Now I forgot. All right. Well, I'll jump into the next segment. So it is my turn now to throw my 3 games out there for you gentlemen. And I don't know if Swiss told anybody what his vote was or if he voted or not. But so I got my 3 games. They are Beyond Good and Evil HD, which was back on the Xbox 360, which is backwards compatible. We have Assassin's Creed Chronicles India, which was like the Xbox Live kind of arcade game. It came out actually, I think it came out on the Xbox One, but I was kind of doing the same thing as I did last time, just picking something from each kind of generation or section. And then D4 Dark Dreams Don't Die, which was an Xbox One original game. So I do have a theme going. Did you guys pick up on that? I don't know if you figured that out.
These were all games that were free at some point on Games with Gold?
Yes, actually, yes, all of those. But also action adventure. They're all classified as action adventure. So I wanted to kind of go into there. I was going to pick like a regular mainstream Assassin's Creed, but then I saw that one. I was like, it's a little different. So let me try this. So what are your votes, gentlemen? DB, let's start with you.
Okay, so I will vote for Assassin's Creed Chronicles. I picked that game up. No, I picked the the China one up way back on release. Played some of it. I've dabbled in both India and the Russia one. So I'm really interested in your perspective on it, and it may give me a reason to go back and revisit it as well. Plus, I know that it's a recent Games with Gold, so it might be fresh on people's mind and still available for download. So I have Swisses if I need it, but Zeus, Glasscleese, what are you thinking?
Muted. There you go.
So my vote is for Prime to play Beyond Good and Evil.
All right, so the tiebreaker vote is Swissguard, and he also votes for Beyond Good and Evil because he wants to know if it holds up and if all the cult following praise really rings true after being out of that initial 3D generation of the GameCube, PlayStation 2 era.
Nice. All right. Cool. Yeah. Well, I've never played it before, so I can't say if it held up or not. I never played it back in the day. So that was what, originally on the Xbox, PS2?
PS2, Xbox, and GameCube. I think it first was on GameCube, and then later was ported to the other two.
All right, cool. All right, so it looks like Beyond Good and Evil. I will get started on that. It's already downloaded, so I can start playing immediately. Cool. Yeah, and like I said, I never played the other two either. So either of these, any of these three would have been fine with me. So I didn't have a preference this time, not like last time. But yeah, cool. All right, guys. Looks like that'll take us into the end of the episode. We're gonna finish a little bit under an hour. Anybody have any last words? Any plugs? Anything like that? No. I guess, please. Do you know when that your entertainment show is coming out?
So we will be live Wednesday night, talking over the first 3 episodes. So. That's when the live show will be on, and it'll be on our YouTube channel. And depending on how things go for me the rest of the week, it may be up by Sunday.
Cool. DB, any last words?
In format.
No, thanks for the good show, guys. Thanks for assigning me to choose a game that I probably never would have stuck with. So
nice. Yeah, that's cool. You had more or less fun, basically. Near the end or halfway through.
More or less fun. There you go. That's the way you want to play your games. More or less fun.
Less. Sometimes it takes a while, so that's fine. All right, so come back on Thursday for our new show, E2K G30, which I believe is me and Gascles this week.
Yep, I think that's accurate.
Yep. And then come back next Tuesday for it would be our topic show for next Tuesday, and enough to keep going. So on behalf of Mr. Gascles Demos, Mr. DBQ Hams, I am Osiris Prime. We'll see you next time.